All right, cool. Welcome everybody to another community call. Last week we had kind of like an AMA journal club, which was done in lieu of the traditional community calls. So we're back at it again, and I think what we're going to try to do going forward is actually have alternating weeks of community calls, and then kind of AMA style journal clubs with some of the authors that have submitted their publications onto ResearchHub. So the three topics for like today's agenda are going to be, so the first topic we'll touch on is kind of some marketing stuff. So like who exactly is kind of our target audience? Are we going to tailor kind of some of our content more towards grad students, towards undergrad students, towards industry, towards academia, towards PIs, or towards like labs in general versus individual people? And then what kind of content we'd like to tailor. And then the second thing where Ricardo will jump in will be kind of a presentation of the website for SciCon 2022, and some kind of like logistics and schedules and timelines for that. And then finally, one of the developers, Kobe, brought up this question he wanted to gauge feedback from the community for, which is, in over the course of the next 5 years, how would you like to see the evolution of the ResearchHub homepage? So like exactly what topics would you like to see on there? So I guess we'll jump into the first topic, and then kind of open the floor for anyone who wants to jump in, which is kind of who do you feel like our target audience should be when we're posting content onto certain social medias, and then what type of content should we put on those social media to kind of tailor to those people?
Well, I mean, it's social media. Okay, first of all, who do we think our target audience is?
Yeah. So Ricardo, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be probably like a free format discussion. I think our target audience, at least like at the stage that we are now, it's mostly grad students, because they might have the time to jump in on go on Twitter and see the content that we post. But it's also important to market in a way that we actually offer a good value proposition for those grad students that want to use ResearchHub, because I think depending on the audience that we're targeting, we can also kind of like put under a specific light the kind of like value proposition that we can offer, because we have many, so it really depends on who we're targeting. So if like just bringing back some content that we got as a suggestion, I think last time with the journal club, we were talking about using the platform also as a potential place where to get like job advertised and so on. That could be another value proposition, and we could easily target another kind of audience, and so kind of like tailor the marketing. But as the stage that we are now, I think we have to kind of like provide the content and do the marketing in a way that we're providing content to graduate students, and providing like a platform for interactions among students.
So is the logic behind graduate students that they're the ones with the time, or because right now it seems like the most important thing is just having money coming in, right? We need to have, or maybe it's not the most important thing, but it seems like the focus has been on having an actual product that can bring money into the platform. That's certainly been what I've noticed over the past few conversations. So if that's like our goal, to have a product that we're selling, uh, are graduate students necessarily the best target initially? I'm not sure. Just want to put it out there.
Yeah, I think so it sounds like we had a survey and like kind of a discussion as well
Mhm.
about kind of the next or the first revenue generating feature, because there are many features that already exist on the platform.
Mhm.
And so I think the consensus among most was that we're going to lean into this kind of organically formed bounty feature, where users can put up bounties for either somebody can curate a set of like research articles for them, or if they have a particular question that needs answering. And so I think that's probably the feature that's likely going to get built out next. And I think that's very like appealing to grad students personally, I think back to, I mean, I am a grad student. I'm in my 5th year now, but I think back to when I was prepping for my qualifying exam, and like I would be more than willing to put up like $20 worth of research coin bounty for somebody to like direct me into like the direction of how to like what are some of the main therapeutics that exist right now for the treatment of this disease, because that's a question that might arise from a qualifying exam.
Mhm.
So I think if that's the feature that we're likely going to build out next, I do think graduate students and maybe undergraduate students and kind of like these early career scientists
Mhm.
are probably kind of like the target audience for that. But to open up like another question is if we want to start really emphasizing the public like publication directly on Research Hub through our ELN, you know, that's something where we have to begin considering the PIs of those graduate students are going to ultimately make the decision on where the papers, what journals the papers should go into, and they need to get a like the students need to get approval from the PI. So getting the PIs on board with a platform such as Research Hub, I think, is also important in the future.
I don't think that's the first step, though. I think you build out trust
Yeah,
before people start publishing on your platform. Like,
yeah. So I think definitely the graduate student, undergraduate student cohort makes a lot of sense with the features that we're going to push now, and then eventually we'll have to get to the PIs.
yeah. Um,
If we get a platform, yes.
I was just wondering, what like if we could get a quick sense of how to reach out to those people. I mean, I've been writing a lot of emails to YouTube content creators, um, and the only person who responded, interestingly enough, was Sean Carroll, only to say that he couldn't make it. But uh, that like a couple of weeks ago we talked about this, and I felt like that was I still think I should continue to reach out because I feel like that's the easiest if you get a few of those parties on board. That's like the easiest way to get the largest. But other than that, though, what do you guys think are some good avenues to reach out um, to parties?
Yeah, Malik.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how effective that way is, but I'm still continuing. Since I joined, like any paper I post, I do invite the first author whose email is always on the paper as a contact person. Hey, by the way, your paper is on the website if you want to, come and join the discussion and claim it and claim your RSC. And the other way, I think, I know the Twitter for Research Hub is particular for only the post for like, oh, this paper is having a good discussion if you want to join. But personally, I think, anytime I see a discussion related to peer review or, access to science being difficult and, all the issues that we discuss, you can just put in a line about, Research Hub. Hey, by the way, we are trying to solve this here. And if you want to come join us. So that's like I know it's not much, but that's like individual approach that, if many of us like keep doing that, then there'll be more words spread out for people to join Research Hub.
And there are
Yeah,
definitely like a bunch of low level things that if people just do consistently will lead to growth over time. Um, and we should definitely keep emphasizing that, I think. Um, but we should also think about what are the like high value things we can do that just like, you know, take us from the next step. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
yeah. No, I was just gonna say like that's kind of like a more direct hand to hand type of thing that Malik's doing, which is very personal, and so I think a lot of people gain appreciation from those like kind of one on one interactions. And then obviously both are important where you need to have kind of this giant like leaps as well, where you kind of reach out to like particular groups of people, and then they have a network of people through like YouTube or certain content where they can kind of hit a larger group of audience. I wonder if anyone has any ideas on like how we can kind of maybe reach out to particular like academic institutes directly, or if there can be any like announcements sent out to different departments within an institute that we feel like might be relevant. So, for example, I'm here at UC Riverside, and getting to contact with the kind of administrative person to send out like a broad email saying, hey, this thing exists if any research grad students are interested.
But for something like that, though, does it make sense to do it before we bring on all the other editors? It seems like if we're going to be talking about bringing on institutions, the entire idea is if you have about 500 users, then you have enough activity where, you know, it won't seem like just another startup. It'll seem like if you post, a request for something, you're actually likely to get a response. So for something like, you know, in person, especially reaching out to these institutions, wouldn't it make more sense to, because you don't really get that many chances with like an admin at a large lab or something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have good relationship with the admin here, so I could very
Well,
easily, yeah, ask her. But like as a broad, like I mean, it's tough because there's like this whole cold start problem where you have to try to get to like a certain amount of users where it's like very sticky and like you actually have like valid utility like in the program or in the platform, and so you need users to get there. And how do you get users? And so you need to reach out, but the users aren't going to stick unless there's already users there. So I mean, we need to start somewhere. So yeah, I guess one option was scaling up the editor program, um, and then another option could be we reach out to a handful of like organizations and institutions now. You can try to retain a lot of user or a few people from that user base until we get up to the whatever number is sticky, and then you go kind of full steam ahead to reach out to other institutions. So go Ricardo and then Anton.
How strong do you think it could be to have kind of like an appearance offline instead of online and kind of like establish that relationship in person? I don't know, like you go to a conference, but you're also on ResearchHub. You start, I don't know, kind of like talking to people regarding ResearchHub and kind of like putting out, I don't want to say flyers, but you kind of like start to introduce people in there, like where PhD students and where researchers go, instead of like kind of like asking them to come on the platform. You go where they are and you try to like, talk about ResearchHub and what we do on ResearchHub. Because I'm feeling like at this stage, the one-to-one relation matters a lot to find that group that is sticky and that kind of like helps you grow. And then you can draw, the other people online once that network effect kind of like scale. And another thing that I was thinking about is, and something that I've been referring to many times, is if there's a kind of like a subsection of the broad kind of like group of people that we want to get in that we should target. Just as an example, we're doing an online event on meta science. Would it be worth it to start from the meta science community to kind of like try to draw in people because they are already a group, and so there's already kind of like a word of mouth passing along, and we could try to use that effect as well.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually going to SFN in November. It's a huge neuroscience conference. And so if anybody else will be there, or if anyone has ideas, we could like rally together. I saw Molly comment something about like setting up like a booth or something like that. I think would be really cool. And going to the people also makes a lot of sense because you want to have like the people trying to enter have the most streamlined and least activation energy needed to like make their way here. So it makes a lot of sense.
We should make a T-shirt with a QR code. That'll be easy to throw people in.
I see Cole nodding his head like that. So okay, I think we will strongly consider then. All right, Anton.
Yeah, so we are actually tackling two problems here, right? We are trying to identify the target audience and simultaneously introduce ways to get them to ResearchHub. Perhaps we should stop at first step for a while and consider it, because I think we have funneled into a specific subset of users, right? We're specifically talking about academics right now. But if you really think about it, after each major event where ResearchHub gets some outreach and media time, we get huge influx of crypto native users who do not stick around. They hang out for a few days, they find nothing to do, and then they leave. So yeah, I understand the appeal of trying to bolster the number of academic users, but I think trying to think of ways to engage these two types of users between each other, so they both have fun, right? So that crypto native people stay around, and editors will get more interactions, so they will be more active and perhaps fulfilled on the platform.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think what's tough with I think crypto native people is a lot of like, because of the initial use cases of crypto, a lot of people are intrinsically motivated by like some kind of like particular like investment token like benefits. And I think the emphasis here is more on like kind of accelerating the pace of the science and like having discussion and communication and discourse about the science. And like the coin, especially with the bounty feature, can be used to kind of like kind of thread that in, but it's not primarily like the primary focus. And so I think a lot of crypto native people kind of say, oh, there's nothing very obvious to like invest in with high reward or something like that, and possibly kind of falter at the wayside. Ricardo?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of refi people, regenerative finance projects coming up, and it's been a kind of like a new trend coming up, and I think DeSci might have a space as well. So this is probably where we could find some of those people to stick around if we got that motive of public goods and crypto for some like real world applications and so on. That is where we might find some interest there. But as Jeff said, crypto people are definitely tough to convince to stay just for the mission. So I would try to get more academics, and then maybe we get a subgroup of those crypto people to stay in here as well. But definitely challenging for what we're doing here.
I mean, but is there a way we could engage crypto people more?
Well, depends what motivation we assume they have, right? If it's just playing with tokenomics, then probably not, other than introducing new ways to maybe perhaps stake REC or some beneficial ways to support articles, like gamify it a little bit. Perhaps if you support an article that will end up being curated and evaluated as a quality article, then you get some return on that because you were the early reader, perhaps, or early assessor of the quality of the article. Something
What about
like that.
intellectually?
That's if so if we assume that they would like to be intellectually engaged, then perhaps from the side of the editor community, perhaps we could try adding focus on interacting with non-editor users, perhaps. Not sure. We'll need to think through.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Cole says their way to target academics who are like kind of more intrinsically interested in crypto, like computer science native people. Yeah, I think that's definitely like an option. We do have like a blockchain like hub, and I know that there's like cryptography. Some people go into their PhDs for cryptography as well. It seems to be like a little bit more of like kind of a niche field compared to like overall computer science. Do you have any ideas, maybe like the best ways to reach out to these people, the best like platforms? I'm assuming a lot of computer science love Reddit, so I think like Reddit could be a great platform. I know Patrick has reached out to some people on there and like made posts, and we've had a big influx, but haven't retained a lot of the users that have come flooding in. So yeah, I think the comp sci crowd definitely is an option, and maybe like particularly like blockchain and cryptographers. So something like that. And then it seems like there's like the grouping of like developers who are like blockchain and cryptographers, and there's the grouping of people who are like have only come to know that because of cryptocurrency. And it seems like those people are a lot more interested in kind of more the less technical but a little bit more superficial aspects, things like I don't know, like tokenomics designs and things like that. So if we think like maybe threading in some content there on like content about tokenomic designs where people can actually, so maybe there's not any formal academic papers on the topics, but somebody can use the ELN feature and post something there, and then you can rally some of those crowds of users to come
I
in.
would imagine that there are probably like a small subset of academics who find tokenomics interesting and have written about it. So maybe it's worth reaching out to them specifically. Like I know of one project where they've taken the academic, or they've like brought in economists um, who actually are professors to help design their tokenomics. So I don't think it's completely outside the purview of academia. And the fact that it might be niche might actually mean that we'll be better off reaching out to those people.
Yeah, I'm thinking like something to the effect of like how in like the paper that from Olympus DAO that they posted on like the range bound stability, like
Mhm.
that's not an academic paper, but it's a very innovative paper. And if it was something that was uploaded through ResearchHub, you can have like very great like communication and discourse and commentary
Mhm.
that occurs through that. There's a lot of like people like on prominent people on Twitter who like the people from like Flashbots like that do some of the MEV stuff.
Mhm.
You know, they're also publishing some like pretty high quality content. It just gets published as like a blog post, for example. But there's very like innovative things within that.
That's an opportunity with a lot of these you know, DeFi DAOs. They're trying to do some pretty unique stuff in terms of options, because you know, like the way you design financial contracts is like an academic field in and of itself, and there's a lot of that stuff being done in DeFi. So, and a lot of those companies do publish papers when they come up with new smart contracts. Um, so, I mean, having a space to actually discuss the paper, because you know they publish it on Medium or whatever, but having like a crypto native space to discuss those things might actually be useful. And maybe we should reach out to some DAOs that we see have those papers and just encourage them to just put them on our platform.
Yeah, absolutely, and I second that. I've reached out to a couple of the people from Olympus with regards to some of the papers they posted, but anything that you guys see from other DAOs where they're posting it as kind of like a blog post, you can always like throw the option to them and say, hey, you can go ahead and try to do it on ResearchHub.
What was the response from Olympus?
No response. Yeah, which I'm sure we'll get 90% of that, but no, that's okay. Okay. Well, I think for the sake of time, if nobody has anything else to add on into this topic, we can hop over to give Ricardo some time to go through the exciting website for SciCon 2022 and to kind of give us like an overview on what's going on there.
Okay, I'll pick it up from here and let me share the screen. Okay, you should see it now. You see it? Okay, awesome. Okay, so yeah, this is this is our website, the website that we're gonna use for the event. We're gonna have a live streaming on the event, and possibly all the information required for participants here on the website. So what I'd like to do is just do quick run on the website, and I'd like you to raise any question you might have, because you are still completing the FAQ. So any doubt, any question, anything that is not immediately kind of like understandable from the website, please let me know so that I can put it in and resolve any potential doubt that people might have. So the SciCon is going from the 15th of July to 2024. Seems like it's a 10-day event. It is not really. So basically the meaning here is that we're starting on the 15th. We're basically kickstarting the competition. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a couple slots, couple talks, 20 minutes each, where it's gonna probably be me, Patrick, and Kobe going over some of the rules of the competition, what are the competition, what you have to do, And then we're gonna have like a deep dive on the ELN. Most of you guys already know how to use it, but we're gonna do it for anyone else, and kind of like explain how to make the most out of it to actually publish something on a competition. And on that day, the submission kind of open. That doesn't mean that you cannot start today, because we're gonna get the announcement soon out on Twitter, so you can already start kind of like working on the submission. But the actual submission can only be done starting the 15th of July. Then we gonna have a week of like asynchronous work for the people participating in the event. And on the 22nd, we're basically gonna close the submissions. Then we're gonna have a couple of days of plenary talks, and we're gonna close the event on the 24th. So this is why the event is going from the 15th to the 24th. You already know the topic. The topic is meta science meets DSci. So we're basically gonna have some talks at the intersection between meta science and DSci, because we think these two fields can actually be really great when combined together. So we have a bunch of apply now buttons that are gonna take you to the registration page. But let me just go through it. Yeah, just a little bit of introduction here on meta science and on DSci. And we're gonna have some topics. These are not strict topics, like we don't have tracks that you have to fill in, but we wanted to kind of like give a couple suggestions, give a couple hints to people that might not know exactly what to submit on potential topics to be used for a submission. So for example, we have the reproducibility crisis and statistical significance of studies and so on. Peer reviews and incentives in academia, another hot topic in the field. Improving science communication, better ways to manage IP, for example, through new concepts of IP NFTs and so on, reputation in science, and many more topics that you'll find in another page. As I said, the event will kickstart on the 15th, and you can have you can add it to your calendar with this button and another bunch of apply now buttons. Then we have the about section. On the about section, once again, we have a couple of sections where we explain why we're doing this, the ResearchHub mission, and again a reference to some of the topics. Here there's a little bit more of the topics. Again, this is just a submission. Sorry, this is just a suggestion. You can basically make a submission out of whatever you think it must it's most suited to the theme of meta science with DSci. Yeah, so we wanted to emphasize that this event is 100% done by the community. So there was no involvement by ResearchHub Inc. It was all done by us, and we're really proud of this. So here there's a button here to join our community on Discord. How it works: we have two competitions. One competition is, let's say, the main competition, that is the electronic notebook submission. So as I said, you have to submit an article through our ELN, and you have basically a week to work on that. You can work on it by yourself, so as an individual, or make up a team. If you don't have a team but you want to have a team, we have a matchmaking process that we're going to use. We're going to basically pair you with like 2, 3, 4 people and create a small group to work on a document. And we have prizes, obviously. We have RSC, we have cash prizes, we have NFTs. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity to get involved. And then we have the second competition. I call the competition because it's still a competition, but it's more like a showcase of what do you do in your, during your studies, your research. So basically, you have 3 minutes where you're gonna be live on stage, kind of like explaining what you do in the lab. And again, we're going to have a community vote, and there's going to be prizes here as well. Just a quick something that I wanted to tell you about the ELN competition. We're going to have 2 rounds of evaluation. The first one is going to be editors performing a peer review. They're going to select the 20% best submissions out of the all the submissions, and we're going to do that through the peer review features that we have on ResearchHub. Those 20% will go to the second stage, and that will going to be reviewed by academics, and they'll basically select the top 3 submissions that will get the top 3 prizes. And this is it. Yeah, here there's a short Loom video that I made just to, show how to register on ResearchHub for new users and how to publish something through the ELN. This is the schedule. Again, I'm not gonna go over it again, but we're starting on the 15th. Then, there's we're gonna use a community call, 20 minutes from a community call to do a short Q&A for any doubt that still, it could still be there. And then again, we're gonna see you guys on the 23rd for the plenary talks that we're gonna have on many topics, regarding meta science and DeSci. And we're gonna close it and wrap it up on the 24th. This the registration page that you can access by the many apply buttons that we intentionally put on the website. You just have to put your first name, last name, email, decide what you want to register for. You can click 1, you can click 2, you can click nothing, but just don't register. And you can decide on if to participate as an individual or as a team member. And here we're gonna put an FAQ, a short FAQ section with all the doubts that you might have. This is all. We have all the links to our social medias and a let's chat buttons that people might use, and it's gonna go directly to our ResearchHub email for us to respond. Okay, this is it. What do you guys think? What question you have about the event? Was that clear? Was not clear?
I'm really excited. I think like the website's pretty like layered. I think Savik did like a pretty tremendous job. Yeah, I think I think the only thing that was like a little bit confusing, like for me and from some other people that I heard, was like if you wanted to just be a regular audience member, like you're there not to really participate in any of the competition part, but you're really interested in all the plenary talks. Like where exactly would you register for that? And I guess as long as we make it clear that like, there's just going to be a public link that goes out, closer to July 23rd, where you could anybody can click on the link and be an audience member. I think that can like alleviate some of the confusion where they would think maybe they would need to register as an audience member here.
Do you think it would make sense to, and this is a question for you all, what do you think is best, to include like an audience, kind of like a checkbox that you can check and be like, I just want to participate as an audience member, or we just state in our tweets that if you just want to attend and not participate in the competition, you can just log in on the website, and we're gonna have like a live session section here that you can access.
Probably
freely.
both.
What do you think is
Probably both, right?
Sorry? Both? So you like to have a button here where you basically say I'm registering for just the audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can have a sense of how many people are actually just interested, if it would good too.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll modify that. Not a big deal.
Yeah, I think the only thing is that if we allow people to register as an audience member, we need to make sure, and maybe you talked about Ricardo at the beginning, I wasn't here at the beginning, but like we need to make sure that they know what does it mean? Like what does an audience, like am I going to, join the calls and just listen in? What does an audience member mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is why I only left the kind of like option for the competitions, because here it's, a registration kind of means, I'm registering, like I'm registering for a competition, is not like registering for a webinar. So that's why I decided to only keep these two. I'm thinking like I would not want to introduce another kind of like layer of confusion to people.
Makes sense. Maybe what we do then is like, I wonder if when we have the schedule for the calls, maybe we can explicitly say that anyone can join. Not sure, like
I can put it on here. I can put it on here on the description. I still have some empty space on here. I could put like, this is free for everyone. Just, log in and connect if you want to just listen to the talks. I can do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
I wonder, Ricardo, too, if you go back to the registration page, maybe you don't have to add like an extra checkbox. Although I do agree with Edwin, we'd be able to get a good gauge on how many people would be interested in showing up. I think that's actually kind of important. But if you think that might be too overwhelming or confusing, maybe just a little commentary somewhere here that says, if you're looking to just sit in on the plenary talks, stay tuned for like a public link that will go out to anybody or something.
It's a good
Okay.
point. Yeah.
Okay.
If you feel that the adding an extra checkbox might start getting a little confusing. But otherwise, I do think that it's kind of it would be good to know approximately how many people are registering.
I would not know how to how to put it, because here like the headline is I'm registering for. So I'm registering as audience is kind of like, I don't know, I will have to change it. Yeah, I have to think it out a bit. I agree that it makes sense to kind of have a gauge on how many of the people are just gonna listen and not actually contribute to the competition. So it might make sense to have a checkbox here. It might make sense. Yeah, I'll think it out a bit and put out a couple suggestions, a couple ideas on Discord. So maybe stay active on Discord and give me some feedbacks. I'll try to put something, something out. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, very excited for this. Looks awesome.
Thank you, Kobe. Thank you. Yeah, I'm also excited. Yeah, I really hope that we get a lot of people contributing here, because it's a great opportunity to showcase what we can do, on ResearchHub.
Sorry. Do you know about the Center for Open Science, Ricardo?
Do I know?
Yeah, the Center for Open Science.
Center?
OSF?
No, they're also. I'll talk to you about this later. Sorry.
Okay, sure.
And then actually, I want to put in the chat. Maybe it can be live on YouTube or live streamed on YouTube. So maybe Ricardo, if you can mention like what the plan is on where the videos are going to get, like, is it going to be Zoom or Google Meets, and are we going to record and things like that?
Okay, so the idea was to actually have it on the website. That was, the best idea. We were like, okay, if we have everything on the website, that would be ideal. The point is, unfortunately, we cannot embed Google Meet, Google Meet meetings on the website. The only option we have is with Zoom. So we're probably gonna do it on Zoom. I think it's the best idea to do it on Zoom, but we can also record it and post it later. So I have a friend of mine, for example, that cannot attend, but would like to see the kind of like the recordings. So we'll have I'm pretty sure there's an option on Zoom that you can record. So we're just gonna publish the recordings on our YouTube page later.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome.
If there's not any more comments, I would just, end the presentation and leave it to the third topic that we have.
Yep. Thanks, Ricardo. And just keep in mind, people, there's a thread also a little bit higher up on the general chat where you can post like any feedback or something on the website or kind of game plan for the SciCon event as well. And there's a SciCon 2022 channel where hopefully a bunch of new users that are coming in can direct, a lot of their concerns and questions in that channel itself. Okay. And so the last one, and I'll kind of briefly mention it, but I'll let Kobe pick up from there, which is going to be kind of this discussion about the ResearchHub homepage and, what exactly, a bunch of the different users would like to see out of that going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So one of the things we're going to be doing next is, so a couple of things. So the first one is bounties. We're working on it. We're spending a little bit extra time refining the bounties feature. We're also working on improving the peer review feature. We had a good conversation between Anton, Jeff, and I earlier today. So these two things are coming up, and I'm kind of excited about them. But another thing that is well overdue is a redesign of our homepage. And you might think of it as like maybe a vein operation, but the homepage is really the first thing that people see. That's the first impression that they get when they come to ResearchHub. And I think we did a good job redesigning our document page. And that's in a good place, needs a little bit more work. But next, without a doubt, is the homepage. At the moment, some of the biggest issues that I have with the homepage is that we're not focusing on some of the good stuff that we have at ResearchHub, like maybe like top discussions, or like the filtering could be done better. And in addition, it's very overwhelming. You have a lot of text. The layout is weird. You have like a bunch of meaningless stuff like trending hubs. And we're not putting our people, authors front and center. In an ideal world, I want the content creators to be front and center, and I want good content. I want to highlight it, like whenever we do something to make science better, I want it to be on the homepage. And also, like, it's a perfect opportunity because, Ricardo, you're working with Sadvik and Jeff on this SciCon, and ideally, we would have a perfect location on the homepage to put that banner with some rules and stuff like that. Unfortunately, there is no good place, and we have to kind of like shove it in there. So in the redesign, we will consider this sort of thing for the future. But I'm really curious to hear what people here have to say. And I'm not talking about like necessarily there's two layers to this. There is like, what do you think we should be showcasing now in the homepage? And two, in an ideal world, like in the future, in 5 years, like what is, when ResearchHub is doing really well, what kind of things do you think we will have in the homepage? Because that would help us like brainstorm some of the next features. So yeah, I mean, it's casual. Don't overthink it. I'm just kind of like curious about your thoughts here, if you have any.
So if I can start, thank you for thinking about the banner. I hope we'll find a place for that too. But as of now, I think you already said that the two less useful things we have on the homepage are definitely the trending hubs, and the trending users the column is better, has gotten definitely better than before. That we just this kind of like same the same kind of column. So yeah, trending hubs not that useful, as you said as well. There's a lot of text, really a lot of text. So some more images. If we do, let's say, change it in the next few months, we can have a little kind of like place where we can showcase that we had an event, and then maybe there's another one that we're gonna do in the future. That might be just an image, but it will make the page more colorful, I would say. And I would like to find a place to showcase more the other features that are kind of hidden in our profile. That is the notebook feature, and yeah, just the notebook feature. That it's a really, really powerful feature, but I think a lot of people don't even see it because it's not well showcased. So having some way to kind of redirect to the notebook will be great. Something like, hey, you have any notes to take, just take a note here, and you have it on the side. And yeah, whatever. Yeah, and the filtering also got better, but that's also, I think, a work in progress.
Very good feedback. Thanks, Ricardo. I agree with everything you said. Malik, do you want to go next?
Yeah, again, this is just a thought for me because you asked about future. Is like if we have a search bar that is that has options of like about let's say a paper about melanoma, and I want to know all the latest papers that are discussed versus not. So you want to select like by date versus by the number of discussion like threads, and the same about authors. If you can select which authors you want to see that, because right now we don't have as many papers, but I assume like we'll have, as we keep posting more and more, in thousands and thousands. So some may not just want to see any random paper, but want to find out about particular paper or particular author.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And I'm going to say one more thing. The more I've been engaging with ResearchHub, the more I think that one of the, and I'm not saying I'm 100% sold on it, but like one of the things that I think would be really nice for the community to have is some functionality to help you research. Right now, you can't really do research really well. We kind of suck at it. Even when you go to the homepage and when you click on a paper, let's say you scroll to like page 2 or 3 of the feed and you click on a paper and you go back, you lose your location in the feed. That really sucks for like doing research, because when you do research, you want to be able to test out different queries, see different content, and be able to kind of like, at the very least, like, do something with that content, read it, engage with it, save it for later, publish, whatever it is. But we don't do a good job at it. And I think, I definitely hear you. And the queries aspect really resonates with me too. Anyone else? Yona?
Fiona?
Hey, yeah, I agree with what Ricardo said, that there are too many images. And personally, I think a more HTML or like minimal style could attract more, I don't know, um, notoriety for the research,
Mm-hmm.
or like, yeah, for example, Hacker News, I don't know, of Y Combinator has something like that, but I think ResearchHub could like incorporate a lot of interesting features it has on more like a minimal style.
I agree. It's very overwhelming. It's not minimal. And it's, I think like one of the sucky things about science, at least I'm not a scientist, but I've like played around with a lot of science websites since I joined. And it seems like design and like layout UX kind of sucks for most sites. Not for all. I've seen some good examples too, but for the most part, it's not very good. And we want to change that a little bit. And I think that's a good suggestion. Make it more minimal, less overwhelming to the user.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like most of, I would say actually, like you're like, I would say probably like all of the science website that I saw are pretty lame, pretty boring.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can kind of like change the style and make it more engaging, even more techy, we can play a bit on the tech part, I think, and make it more and engaging. So yeah, I totally second what you said, that we should play a bit on the interface, because that could really draw in users, especially
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like very excited about this project. Yeah, and thanks for the feedback. Does anyone else have anything more to share? Anything even you don't like, not necessarily something you want to see, but something that you really don't like about the homepage, or yeah, I guess the homepage.
I have some stuff that I I think would be cool to like implement, but if someone has something where they want to like say that they'd like to change on the page, you can go for it first. Otherwise, I think like a feature that would be like immensely helpful, and it can maybe also be a little button on the homepage, would be like your personal bookmarked papers. There's like so many times where I have like 9 tabs open on ResearchHub, and it's all
Yeah.
different papers, and then if it gets closed out or something like that, I lose those. I think that would be like a very like nice thing, and it can be on like somewhere in your profile or under the drop down of the profile or something like that.
Yeah, that's a very good idea.
Yeah, I think that,
so-
and like open bounties as well, like on the homepage. So once I just want to click and say, hey, there's like 8 open bounties, and then maybe filter that by hub, because maybe I don't know how to answer the bounty in geology, but I can answer the bounty in neuroscience. So something like that on the homepage would be great.
That's a good point. Bounty is going to be big. We definitely want to showcase it on the homepage. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Anyone else have any other feedback? Cool. Yeah, I guess I have like, since we have like maybe another. Oh, by the way, Jeff, was there anything else you want to mention? Okay.
No.
So I'm curious in terms of, we're at kind of like a bit of a crossroad with ResearchHub. There is like a bunch of directions we can go into one of the directions is like, what does the homepage mean? What do you use ResearchHub for? We can, obviously, we want to, our goal is to own the whole scientific flow from like the beginning of pre-registration all the way to publication. That would be awesome, and we can really help improve science that way. But in addition, the homepage kind of bothers me because like there is a few aspects. There is like when it comes to discovering content, there is content that's uploaded organically by our user base, and that content tends to be like the best content. And that's cool. When you come to the homepage, you should be able to see it and read more about it. But then to go hand in hand with what Malik was saying, you know, like should be able to query and find things in ResearchHub. We have like a lack. We have a lot of papers missing. But like one aspect I think would be cool is to be able to help you become like or like achieve some help you do research. I guess if you're like brainstorming a topic, writing a paper, you're going to be looking at other papers. Right now, it's not, doesn't look very good, like as far as like what other sites offer. The UX is not great. It's hard to, the reading is not great. So, and finding content is not as great, at least from what I saw. If you guys have anything that, you know, contradicts what I'm saying, please share with me. But do you guys, honestly speaking, do you guys think that it might be a good idea for ResearchHub to add an element of a research assistant, like help you do research better? Or do you not think it is something worth pursuing?
What would that look like?
So I'm thinking that would look like something, as a starting point, your feed would be customized. So maybe you start off and the feed looks like it does now, obviously a little better. But then we add like an element of what Malik was saying of like updating our filters so that you can enter really specific queries and maybe even a research question. Could be keywords, could be like a topic, and then we help like give you papers as suggestions. And you know, there's going to be some UX elements I'm thinking about, but those are for another time. But yeah, so the discoverability would be like better, if that makes sense.
If I can just jump in really quick here, I think the thing that has like really pissed me off the most about using PubMed and CBI is sometimes I try to like look up something where I just want to see a paper that used a particular mouse model. Or I want to look at a paper that used a particular cell line in the research. And there's no way for me to like filter for papers that have exclusively like used, like if there was a way to filter papers and say, like these are the papers that used this like cancer cell line in their research, then I can quickly find 5 papers and then quickly be able to see, oh, this cell line uses this kind of media to grow them, and I can't treat them this way, but I can treat them this way. And it takes an excessive amount of time just to filter something like that. So if there was something to improve like discoverability or tags on the papers that make it easy to search for, that would be super helpful.
Methods tagging, and that could be like,
yeah,
you know, something where there are bounties for very easily.
Yeah, methods tagging is like would be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe it can be like a separate feature to not force any user to explore or something, like a separate feature about exploring more topics about ResearchHub or everything that's on ResearchHub. For example, Instagram, when you follow a user, then 20 users as recommendation come up. And yeah, maybe we can do that like for topics or tags.
Yeah, no, that's a good suggestion. I like that. And I think, yeah, that's like, that leads me to my next point of like, right now, all of the content is user uploaded. We dabbled a little bit with like automatically pulling from like external sources. I'm thinking right now, maybe the right solution is a combination of both. So when you go to the homepage, we start off with like maybe curated lists or like user generated, and maybe as you filter, as you search, maybe then we combine the data set with automatically pull data set. The reason why we eliminated the automatically pull data set, by the way, because the homepage became like crazy. It was very
Yeah, I noticed that so many deleted users. Why? Why is that?
So much. It was like very difficult to find something interesting, or that can work if we had the right filters, but we don't, and maybe that's the next step.
Yeah.
Hey Jeff, like what you were saying about the cell line, isn't that like really complicated NLP kind of thing to do on the papers? Like, do you want that to be done automatically, or you want users to tag? Because in one way or the other is either technologically tough or labor intensive.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like kind of down the road where like if somebody's publishing directly through ResearchHub, like, and things are not just like a giant PDF that's being uploaded, and like you can insert like a lot more information during the upload process. Maybe something you can say is like there's a section that says like mouse model or cell line used, and the user can input and say, hey, I used HEC293, or I used C2C12 cells, something like that, or I used C57 Black 6 mice. It would be so helpful to filter, because genetic background on mice changes a lot of things. The cell line you use, whether it's immortalized or not, like those things would be so helpful. So maybe it's like a user input when they're submitting the paper or the article.
Yeah, I was just asking that because that is tremendously helpful in my field as well. Like when I search for specific sensors that are made with, I don't know, gold nanoparticles, I go on Scholar, I type gold nanoparticles sensors, and what I get is everything but the sensors that I was looking for. Because unfortunately, you get that in the text, you get it in the title, you get it in that paragraph, but it's not exactly been used in the study. So I mean, I agree that would be such a huge value proposition for us, but that requires a lot of effort and a pretty big at least editor base. And in that way you can actually create something out of what we do with. It's basically like the concept that I was thinking about with the perpetual reviews, where you get sort of like a crowdsourced table where you kind of like catalog the papers that you encounter in a specific field. So if I'm looking for a specific cell line, I ask you to put everything that you might find with that cell line. So yeah, I agree, that would be great, but I just don't know at what kind of scale would be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you have a minute, just quick comment to follow with what Jeff and Ricardo said. I think one way to do that, possibly, I don't know how technologically difficult it would be, every paper has keywords.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure if it's a mice modeling paper, it would at least have that as keyword. Or if it is just an in vitro study, then it would say, cell line, whatever cell line they're using that study. And same for Ricardo, your field. If we can have, along with the abstract, like the keywords in like when we post the paper, if the keywords are also listed out, and then when somebody searches it, it picks up those keywords, that will be one way of doing it. And one other quick comment to what Kobe said earlier, I really feel like eventually if we can also pull the papers that are not posted individually by editors somehow in our search function, that would just improve the robustness of ResearchHub significantly, like so that you don't have to go from ResearchHub to PubMed or something to find a paper. Eventually if you can pull up papers with DOIs alone, I think that would go a long way. I don't know how difficult it is, but yeah.
Do you mean pull like newly created papers from like external sources, Molly?
Yes. So like if I want to search for, let's say, again, I'm dermatologist, I always come with I don't know, pemphigus vulgaris, a rare disease. And if it is only, there are like 5-6 papers right now on ResearchHub on that. But if we can pull up from other sources, then, you don't have to jump from ResearchHub to another platform to find that information.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think we have the ability to do that. It's just that our search kind of sucks right now. And yeah, if you guys bear with us for like probably like 6 months or a year, it'll be like the site will be like a lot better. It's just that we have some like things that are frustrating. We're all like very frustrated, and we want to fix it in just a matter of time before we do it. And it'll be awesome once it's done, because we've done it before. The pulling of papers, we just turned it off because the search functionality was not very good. But so I'll say one more thing. We actually we use OpenAlex, which is like an API that pulls in like some metadata associated with the papers. And we have keywords for all the papers. So we can already index them theoretically. And you can like click on a keyword and we see. I'm curious, Jeff, if the keywords that you're looking for are there, like the cell lining and all that stuff, like the genetic markers. If you can send me a paper, some genetic papers with mice, I'm gonna look and see what kind of information they have for those.
Yeah, it would be good. I think those keywords are generally like keywords that are in the abstract, usually.
Probably, right?
And so if they mention the mouse model or the cell line in the abstract, and sometimes usually the cell lines, then it should be in there. So I'll send you some papers after this, and if you give it a test run, I'd love to know how it goes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, does anyone else have anything else to say before we break?
Yeah, last thing about these keywords, because I really believe this is a big thing. Would be, we could try to use a kind of like coupling some technical instruments with some user generated data. So let's say you get a paper, you do a run by, I don't know what kind of algorithm, and you pull out something like, hey, the algorithm thinks that this paper has used this specific cell line, and that goes to an editor. Is that true or is not true? And then if it's true, you kind of like confirm the tag, or if it's not, you kind of like discard it. So you're not really digging into the paper, you're kind of getting an input and you have to verify. It's still labor intensive, but maybe a little bit less, and maybe you can even refine the algorithm a bit. Because what happens is, every time I find papers that are not relevant, is because that keyword is cited, but it's cited in, I don't know, in the introduction, where it doesn't really matter.
Why doesn't it matter in the introduction? So like the author makes a mistake, or is it like just not really a thing?
No, because it's like generally what happens is like you get, like, for example, I'm developing a sensor with gold nanoparticles, and what I do is I go in the introduction and I say authors have developed sensors with gold nanoparticles, silver nanowires, and whatever other kind of like material. But in my paper, then I use something different. So you mention what others did, but not what, not exactly what you did. So that's why it, pops up in Google Scholar, and you have to go over all of them. It's like, no, this was just mentioned, not used in the methods.
So if we had the ability, like, I think if we had the ability, like, I'm trying to think about like a poor man's solution here. If we had the ability to just like look for keywords and their frequency in the body of the paper, not in the introduction or the abstract, would that be more meaningful? Like, especially
in the materials and methods, that would be great, because they don't, like, people don't cite what they don't use in materials and methods. So that could be already a starting point, I think, promising starting point.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a bunch for everyone's feedback. It's very helpful.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Kobe. Yeah, appreciate you hopping on. And I think that's the end of this. Thanks everyone for staying an extra 5 minutes. And yeah, next week, hopefully not confirmed, but hopefully we'll do another AMA journal club. I'll be reaching out to probably some authors and see if anyone's interested. So hopefully that, but if not, we'll have a normal community call.
All right. Yeah, thanks everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good week,
Good one.
everyone.
Yeah.